time doesn't shout, but it changes everything. And Arin didn't realize that every silent second slipping past him was shaping his entire life, until the day he walked into a tiny watch shop where hundreds of ticking clocks whispered a truth he could no longer ignore. If you've ever felt like you had plenty of time, this story will show you how one moment, just one, can open your eyes forever. In a small, quiet town where mornings began with the soft ringing of bicycle bells and evenings faded into golden skies, a young man named Arin lived with a heart full of dreams, but a habit of believing that tomorrow would always wait for him. He moved through each day thinking time was an endless road stretching far beyond sight, and because of that belief, he often let minutes slip away like sand falling through open fingers. People around him hurried with purpose, tending to their duties, chasing ambitions, caring for their families, but Arin felt no urgency. He would sit beneath the old banyan tree, watching clouds drift slowly, telling himself that life would begin later, that success and change and growth would come when he finally felt ready. But readiness never arrived on its own, and time, though gentle in its motion, never paused for him. One afternoon, as the sun painted the world with warm light, Arin met an elderly watchmaker named Mr. Walton, a man with silver hair, bright eyes, and hands that held a lifetime of precision. His little workshop sat on a corner street and smelled of varnish, metal, and stories waiting to be told. Arin wandered inside, drawn by the soft ticking of hundreds of clocks lining the walls. Each one beat with its own rhythm, yet together they created a melody so steady and calm that Arin felt strangely awake, almost as if time itself was speaking to him. Mr. Walton smiled and welcomed him, and Arin, without knowing why, sat with him for hours. The watchmaker talked about moments, how fragile they were, how every tick of a clock carried a message that most people ignored. He said time was a quiet teacher, one that never raised its voice, but always demanded respect. Arin listened, fascinated, but still unable to understand why time mattered so deeply. He believed youth meant freedom from worry, and that there would always be another sunrise waiting for him. But Mr. Walton simply shook his head and handed Arin a small, unfinished pocket watch. Its face was empty, its hands missing, its gears still loose. The watchmaker told Arin that this little piece would teach him what no lecture or book could. He asked him to return only when he felt he truly understood what it meant to hold time in his own hands. Arin left confused yet curious, turning the small watch in his palms as he walked home, unaware that his life was already beginning to change. Days passed, then weeks. Arin continued with his old habits, drifting through hours like a passenger on a train he never intended to catch. He often looked at the unfinished watch, but he did not know what it was waiting for. Time moved on without concern, carving small lessons into his days, though Arin did not notice them at first. He missed opportunities because he believed they would come again. He delayed tasks, thinking he would start later, and soon later became a word without meaning. Friends grew busier, dreams grew further, and Arin, though unaware, began losing small pieces of life that would never return. One morning, everything shifted. Arin visited the riverbank, a place where he used to play as a child. He expected to see the familiar tall tree where he had carved his name years ago, but the tree had fallen during a storm he never bothered to witness. The sight struck him harder than he expected. Something about that fallen tree reminded him how life, even the parts that felt permanent, could change quietly and without warning. He walked back slowly, feeling the weight of something he had ignored for years. Time was not an endless road after all. It was a path made of moments that vanished the second he looked away. Over the next few days, Arin became more aware of everything around him. He watched his mother work tirelessly, noticing the fine lines on her face that he had somehow missed growing deeper over the years. He saw children running through the streets, knowing that they would not stay children for long. He watched the sky shift, realizing how beautiful a single sunset truly was when he actually paid attention. These observations awakened something inside him, a sense of urgency he had never felt. He realized he had been living in a future that did not exist, while ignoring the present that desperately needed him. Arin began to change. He woke earlier, helped his parents with chores, spent time with people he cared for, and worked on small goals he had always postponed. It felt strange at first, like learning to walk again, but slowly he discovered a rhythm, his rhythm. Every task he completed brought a quiet satisfaction he had never known. Every productive day made him stand a little taller. He picked up old hobbies, learned new skills, and started dreaming again, but this time with action instead of empty intentions. Through all this, he kept the unfinished pocket watch nearby, almost like a reminder that time was now something he was beginning to understand. One evening, Arin met a young girl named Leela at the market. She stood near a fruit stall, staring sadly at a basket of apples. When Arin approached her, she explained that her mother was ill and she wanted to buy apples for her, but she didn't have enough money. Without thinking, Arin bought the apples and handed them to her. Leela's eyes glowed with gratitude and innocence, and she thanked him in a way that touched him deeply. She told him something simple yet powerful, that time with her mother was the most precious thing she had, and she would do anything to make her smile. Her words lingered in Arin's heart like a gentle echo. He realized that even children understood the value of time better than he once had. As Arin continued improving his life, he encountered more people who unknowingly taught him about time. He met a hard-working baker who woke before dawn every day because sunrise meant customers would soon arrive. He met a painter who treasured every quiet evening because it was the only time she could create freely. He met a traveler who had lost someone he loved and said that the greatest regret was not spending enough time with them. All these stories shaped Arin's mind, weaving wisdom into his thoughts. Time was no longer invisible. He could feel it, moving, shifting, guiding, reminding. Months passed, and Arin became a young man with purpose. He no longer wasted hours waiting for inspiration. He created his own path. He helped his community, supported his family, and found joy in simple achievements. Yet every night before sleeping, he looked at the unfinished pocket watch. He began to understand what it represented, but he knew something was still missing. A final lesson, something deeper. One cold morning, Arin rushed to Mr. Walton's workshop, only to find the door locked and a small sign hanging outside. The sign said the watchmaker had fallen ill. Arin's heart tightened. He hurried to the watchmaker's home, where he found him resting in a small room filled with clocks that continued their gentle ticking. Mr. Walton was weaker now, but his smile remained warm. Arin sat beside him, holding the unfinished pocket watch, and said he believed he finally understood the importance of time. But Mr. Walton shook his head softly and told Arin that time was not about racing against it. It was about respecting it, honoring it, and living fully within it.
He told Arin that time was not something to fear. It was a gift, one that people often wasted because they assumed it would always remain. He explained that time became meaningful only when used with intention, when shared with people who mattered, and when invested into dreams that carried purpose. Then he placed his hand over Arin's and whispered that the real value of time was found not in clocks or schedules, but in how a person chose to use a single moment. Arin felt a warmth spread through him, as if the message settled deep in his heart. He looked at the pocket watch, and suddenly it made sense. The watch had no hands, because time does not wait for anyone. It had no numbers, because moments cannot be measured in neat sections. It had no ticking sound, because time speaks in actions, not noise. The watch was incomplete because Arin himself had been incomplete. and only with understanding could he finish what had been given to him.
Soon after, the watchmaker passed away, leaving behind a world filled with the echo of his lessons. Arin mourned him deeply, but he also felt grateful. He carried Mr. Walton's wisdom like a torch, lighting his path. Inspired, he returned to the workshop and began learning the craft of watchmaking. He practiced daily, dedicating hours to understanding gears, springs, and mechanisms. But more importantly, he used the craft as a way to honor time itself. He repaired old clocks, built new ones, and passed on gentle reminders to customers who came seeking help. He told them that a clock was not just a device for measuring hours. It was a little guardian that whispered, "Use your moments wisely." Years flowed like a calm river, and Arin grew into a man known for his kindness, wisdom, and calm spirit. He still worked in the workshop, now his own, and the town admired him not just for his skill, but for the peace he carried within him. And hanging in front of his shop was the very first pocket watch he ever received, now completed by his own hands. It had simple hands, a clear face, and a gentle ticking sound that reminded him daily of the man who changed his life. Parents brought their children to Arin not only to fix their clocks, but to hear the story of the watchmaker, the man who taught a young boy to stop wasting time. Arin never exaggerated or decorated the story. He simply told the truth, that time was the greatest treasure a person could ever hold, and the only thing that once lost could never be returned. As the years passed, the town flourished, filled with people who valued their days differently because of Arin's quiet influence. Soon, travelers began hearing about the wise watchmaker of the little town and came seeking his guidance. Arin welcomed them with warmth, sharing his story again and again, never tiring of its truth. He realized that spreading this message was the greatest work he could ever do. One evening, as the sun cast long orange beams across the room, Arin sat in his workshop with a young boy who reminded him of his younger self. The boy admitted he didn't care much about time and thought he had plenty of it to waste. Arin smiled gently and placed the same unfinished pocket watch into the boy's hands, the one he had used to learn his own lessons. He told the boy to return when he understood its meaning. And as the boy walked away, Arin felt a peaceful certainty that the cycle would continue, that time's lessons would keep flowing through generations. At the end of each day, when the world outside quieted and the clocks in his shop filled the air with soft harmonies, Arin would sit alone and reflect. He would think about how far he had come, how many mistakes he had learned from, and how different life became once he embraced the value of every moment. He realized that time had not changed, he had. Time had always been steady, patient, and fair. It was people who rushed, delayed, ignored, or wasted it. Time simply existed, offering itself equally to everyone. And Arin, once a boy who let days slip by without meaning, was now a man who understood that life was built one moment at a time. He knew that every sunrise was a new chance, every hour was a quiet invitation, and every second could either be wasted or transformed into something beautiful. He knew that time, when used with intention and love, became the most powerful force in a person's life. By living with awareness and purpose, Arin discovered something extraordinary, that the true value of time was not found in clocks or calendars, but in how deeply one chose to live. He learned that time was not meant to be owned, controlled, or bargained with. It was meant to be honored. It was meant to be filled with laughter, effort, kindness, dreams, courage, and love.
And every day he woke up grateful for the simple truth that every moment held a chance to shape his life. And so, in that quiet town where bicycle bells still rang and sunsets still painted the skies, a wise watchmaker continued sharing the most important lesson anyone could ever learn: that time is precious, fleeting, and full of possibility, and those who understand its value unlock the true meaning of life itself.